My friend and I chose to work together to bring you true horror stories. If you're not afraid, subscribe. We didn't create this channel for everyone, only those who can handle true horror. Subscribe if you dare.
My grandmother died 3 weeks ago. I'm writing this because I don't know what else to do. The police won't help. My family thinks I'm crazy, but I know what I read. I know what I found. My name is Emma. I'm 26. My grandmother Rose raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. She was everything to me, warm, loving, the kind of person who baked cookies every Sunday and never raised her voice. She died in her sleep. Peaceful, the doctor said. She was 84. After the funeral, I volunteered to clean out her house. It's a big old Victorian in a small town in Ohio. My grandmother had lived there her whole life. Married my grandfather there. Raised my mom there. I started in the attic. It was full of the usual stuff. Old furniture, boxes of Christmas decorations, my mom's childhood toys. I was doing fine until I found a locked trunk pushed into the corner under some moth-eaten blankets. The lock was rusty but simple. I broke it open with a screwdriver. Inside were 3 things. A wedding dress that wasn't my grandmother's. It was old-fashioned, from maybe the 1940s, and it was covered in brown stains that looked like dried blood. A stack of yellowed newspaper clippings about a missing woman named Helen Porter who disappeared in 1952. And a diary. The diary had my grandmother's handwriting. I recognized it immediately, the same neat cursive she used to write me birthday cards. I sat down on the dusty attic floor and started reading. The first entry was dated June 3, 1952. I did something terrible today. God forgive me. God forgive me. God forgive me. That line was repeated over and over for 3 pages. Then, Helen came to the house this afternoon. She knew. I don't know how, but she knew about Richard and me. She said she was going to tell everyone. Ruin everything. I couldn't let her do that. My hands started shaking. Richard was my grandfather's name. I kept reading. I didn't mean to push her that hard. The stairs are so steep. When she fell, there was so much blood. Her neck was bent wrong. I knew she was dead. I wanted to stop reading. I should have stopped, but I didn't. Richard came home and found me standing over her body. I thought he'd be angry. I thought he'd call the police, but he just looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "We have to bury her where no one will find her." He said we'd done nothing wrong, that Helen was going to destroy our lives, that we were protecting ourselves. We buried her in the backyard that night, under the rose garden. Richard planted new roses the next day to hide the fresh dirt. We told everyone Helen had run off to Chicago with some man. No one questioned it. No one looked for her. The entry ended there. I flipped through the rest of the diary. There were entries spanning 50 years. All about Helen. About hearing footsteps upstairs when no one was there. About seeing a woman in a blood-stained dress standing at the foot of their bed. About my grandfather's sudden death from a heart attack in the rose garden. About the roses that would never bloom right after that, no matter what she did. The last entry was dated 2 weeks before my grandmother died. She's coming for me tonight. I can feel it. I'm not afraid anymore. I deserve this. I closed the diary. And that's when I heard footsteps coming up the attic stairs. I wasn't alone in the house. I know what you're thinking. Old house. Settling foundations. My imagination running wild after reading a creepy diary. But these weren't random creaks. These were deliberate. Slow. Coming up the attic stairs one step at a time. I grabbed my phone and opened the flashlight. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. Hello. My voice came out as a whisper. The footsteps stopped. I waited. Counted to 10. Started to convince myself I'd imagined it. Then I heard something worse. A woman's voice. Quiet. Coming from right behind me. Where is she? I spun around. Nothing there. Just boxes and dust and shadows. I ran. I don't care if that makes me a coward. I grabbed the diary and the newspaper clippings and I ran down those attic stairs so fast I almost fell. I didn't stop until I was in my car with the doors locked, driving away from that house. I went straight to the police station. The officer at the desk looked bored until I started talking about the diary and the body in the rose garden. Then he sat up straight. You're saying your grandmother confessed to murder in a diary? Yes. From 1952? Yes. And you think there's a body buried in her backyard? I know there is. He looked at me for a long time. Ma'am, do you have any proof besides this diary? I showed him the newspaper clippings about Helen Porter. He read them, then handed them back. This says she was reported missing, not murdered. There's no evidence of a crime. The diary is evidence. The diary is the private writings of an elderly woman who recently passed. For all we know, she was confused, senile, making things up. She wasn't senile. Not 3 weeks ago when she died. And definitely not when she wrote these entries over 50 years. I understand you're upset, but will you at least check the rose garden? Just dig there. See if there's anything? He sighed, made some calls. 2 hours later, I was standing in my grandmother's backyard watching police officers dig up the rose garden. They found Helen Porter 6 feet down, or what was left of her. The medical examiner confirmed it later. Female. Right age. Broken neck. Buried sometime in the 1950s based on the clothing and decomposition. They matched her dental records to Helen Porter's file. My grandmother and grandfather had murdered someone and buried her in their backyard. And I'd played in that yard my whole childhood. Had tea parties on the grass right above her grave. The story made national news. My family's name was dragged through the mud. Distant relatives called me a liar. Said I'd planted the diary and the body somehow, even though that made no sense. My grandmother went from beloved community member to monster overnight. But here's the thing that nobody talks about in the news. Helen Porter's body was found. She was given a proper burial. Her family, what's left of it, finally had closure after 70 years. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because 3 days after they dug up Helen, things started happening in my apartment. Footsteps at night. Doors opening by themselves. And worst of all, a woman in a blood-stained wedding dress standing at the foot of my bed. I think Helen followed me home. I stopped sleeping. Every night at 3 a.m., I'd wake up to the feeling of someone watching me. And when I opened my eyes, she'd be there. Helen. Standing at the foot of my bed in that blood-stained wedding dress from the trunk. Her head was tilted at a wrong angle. Her neck was broken just like the diary said. She never moved. Never spoke. Just stared at me with empty eyes. The first few times I screamed. Called 911. By the time police arrived, she'd be gone. They started to think I was crazy. Maybe I was. I tried everything. Stayed with friends. The footsteps followed me there too. Got a hotel room. Woke up to her standing by the bathroom door. Saw a priest. He tried to bless my apartment. She appeared right behind him during the prayer. He left and never returned my calls. I started researching. Reading everything I could about hauntings, ghosts, unfinished business. Everyone said the same thing. Ghosts stay because they have something unresolved. Something keeping them tied to this world. But what did Helen want? Justice. She got it. Her body was found. My grandparents' crime was exposed. Her family knew the truth. What more could I do? Then I found something in the newspaper archives. An article from 1953, a year after Helen disappeared. Helen Porter had been engaged to a man named James Crawford. After she vanished, James never married. Spent his whole life looking for her, according to a follow-up article from 1990. He died in 2003, still not knowing what happened to the woman he loved. I tracked down his grave. It was in a cemetery about 2 hours away. I drove there on a cold Tuesday morning. Found his headstone. It was simple. Just his name, dates, and one line, "Forever waiting for Helen." I knelt down and talked to a dead man like I'd lost my mind. "James, I found her. I found Helen. She didn't leave you. She was murdered. My grandparents killed her and buried her in their yard. She's been found now. She's been buried properly. But I think she can't rest because she never got to say goodbye to you." I felt stupid, talking to a gravestone, hoping a ghost could somehow hear me through another ghost. But I kept going. "I'm sorry for what happened to both of you. I'm sorry my family did this. If you can hear me, if there's anything after all this, please find her. Please be together. She doesn't need to haunt me anymore. She needs to be with you." Nothing happened. I sat there for an hour. Then I went home. That night, I waited for 3 a.m. like I'd been doing for weeks. When my eyes opened, she was there. Helen. But this time, she wasn't alone. There was a man standing next to her. Older, translucent, like she was smiling. They were holding hands. Helen looked at me one last time. Her head was straight now. Her neck wasn't broken anymore. She mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Then they both faded away. I haven't seen her since. I haven't heard footsteps. I haven't woken up at 3 a.m. It's been 2 months now. I think Helen finally found peace. But I'm still living with what my grandparents did. Still trying to understand how the woman who raised me could do something so horrible. And I'm still afraid to go to sleep, just in case she comes back. I thought it was over. I really did. For 2 months I slept through the night. No footsteps. No visitors. No woman in a blood-stained dress. I started to feel normal again. Then last week I got a call from Helen Porter's niece. Her name is Margaret. She's 68 years old and lives in Florida. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for finding Aunt Helen. My mother died not knowing what happened to her sister. But at least I know now. At least we could give her a proper burial." "I'm glad I could help," I said. "I'm so sorry for what my grandparents did. That's actually why I'm calling." Margaret's voice got quiet. "I found something when I was going through my mother's things after the funeral. Letters. Between Helen and my mother. I think you should see them." She emailed me scans that afternoon. The letters were from 1952. Helen had been writing to her sister in the weeks before she disappeared. She talked about being in love with James Crawford. About planning their wedding. About how happy she was. But then the tone changed. In a letter dated May 15, 1952, Helen wrote, "Rose cornered me at the market today. She knows I've been seeing Richard. She threatened to tell James if I don't end things. But there's nothing to end. Richard kissed me once at a party when he was drunk. I pushed him away. I told him I was engaged. I loved James, not him. I tried to explain this to Rose, but she wouldn't listen. She called me terrible names. Said I was trying to steal her husband. She's not well, I think. There's something wrong with her." May 28, 1952. Richard came to my house yesterday. Said Rose is becoming obsessed with me. Says I'm trying to seduce him. He apologized for the misunderstanding at the party. Said he was drunk and stupid and loves Rose. I believe him. But I'm worried about Rose. She's been following me. Watching my house. I'm scared. The last letter was dated June 2, 1952. The day before my grandmother's first diary entry. "I'm going to Rose's house tomorrow to settle this once and for all. I'm bringing the letters Richard wrote me apologizing for the kiss. Proof that nothing happened. That I rejected him. Maybe if I show her, she'll understand and leave me alone. James thinks I should just ignore her, but I can't. Not when she's telling people I'm a homewrecker. I need to clear my name. I'll write you after I talk to her." She never wrote again. Because my grandmother killed her the next day. I read those letters 5 times. My grandmother didn't kill Helen to cover up an affair. There was no affair. Helen rejected my grandfather. Did nothing wrong. My grandmother killed her out of pure jealousy and paranoia. Killed an innocent woman who just wanted to marry the man she loved. Then my grandmother spent 50 years making herself the victim. Writing about how Helen knew about Richard and me. Making it sound like Helen was the threat. It was all lies. I thought finding Helen's body and reuniting her with James was enough. I thought I'd help. But now I know the truth. My grandmother was worse than I imagined. I'm putting this all out there because I can't carry it alone anymore. Helen Porter was murdered in cold blood by my grandmother. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she existed. And my grandfather helped bury the evidence. These are the people who raised me. These are the people who sang me lullabies and taught me to ride a bike and tuck me in at night. Monsters can look like anyone, even like your grandmother. I still can't sleep well. Not because Helen's haunting me, but because I know what people are capable of. And I have to live with that knowledge for the rest of my life.